Oh, hey, it's Future Brit, or past Brit, now that you're listening to this. But I'm putting together today's episode right now in the editing room, and I wanted to make something very clear. We are not medical professionals, nor are we licensed nutritionists. This podcast was created strictly for educational purposes and should not be used for replacement for any sort of medical diagnosis or medical advice. So if you have any underlying conditions, or if you're just thinking about partaking in a brand new fitness routine, you should make sure that you're consulting with your physician or other healthcare professional to determine any unique needs that you may have. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hi, I'm Heather, a certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, and have my BSN in exercise science and behavioral coaching from Arizona State University. I currently live in Oregon with my 3 kids, who I will reference often.
And I'm Britt, a former Division I collegiate athlete turned recreational triathlete and fitness instructor. I have a degree in exercise biology from UC Davis, and I currently live in Belgium with my husband and fur kids.
Together, we're best friends wanting to bring the world of health and fitness back to a more grounded and balanced place that's accessible to everyone.
Each episode, we're going to talk about ways to live out a well-rounded and healthy life that makes sense in today's modern, busy world. We'll cover topics related to exercise, nutrition, mindset, mental health, competition, and so much more.
So sit back,
Sign up.
and let's get ready to
Race to wellness.
Now I don't know how we start because
We
we've
just
already
did that part a
started
little.
stuff. I don't know how to talk to you anymore.
I don't know. Oh my gosh. Brittany, we're professionals.
We're in the middle of talking, and now I don't know. Just
No, I don't know what's going on.
I'll see myself out.
Cool. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my god. Bye. I love it.
Anyways.
Okay. Cool. So
Cool.
our 8-week plan is coming out.
Yay!
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
What is happening in life?
But today I
Yeah.
was going to run today, and I
Mhm.
took the dog around for like a dog walk to initially begin, and we did about 2 miles on like the walk. And then
Oh,
later
nice.
today, I was really not feeling running, and I texted you. I was like, I need to change this energy. And
Mhm.
if you could have seen like the crazy dance I was trying to do in my living room, like trying
Yeah.
to get myself like amped up and pumped to go running, and I could
Yeah.
not get amped to go running. And so my husband was just like, well, we could just go for a really long walk. And I was like, that sounds great. So then we
That
went
sounds
on
great.
like,
Let's do that option.
right. So we went on another like 3.5 mile walk with the dog. So I have
Oh.
walked 5.5 miles today.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome. Dude, walking
win.
is so good for you. So yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't
Realized
know
after, 'cause
that, I wrote a blog post about it. It's in someone's website.
Yes, our website.
I'll link it down below. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had that realization. So we talked about that I was going to go, I'm still planning on going to work out later, but I realized it's going to be at that like 5:30 post work
mhm.
time, which means there's going to be a bajillion people there. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
You're
don't know if I wanna
already
do
in
that.
that I don't want to mood because
Yeah. I do the after work crowd. I will say this, they're much more vocal with their like compliments to you. Like the
Really?
6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. like early morning people, they just like put their head down, don't talk to anybody because it's super early. But the
Yeah.
after work people are like much more like conversational and much more like complimentary. Yeah.
That's funny.
Had a dude
Probably
tell me
because
one
we're
time.
awake at that point.
Yeah. And after work and yeah. You're
Mhm.
free. You're free from your
Right.
job.
We need to
Yeah,
talk
I had
about
a-
some stuff.
Mhm. Yes. Cool. So this
What?
week we are talking about building muscle. I don't know why this title gets me. I'm like, I say like building fat and
Building
muscle
fat
loss
and
or
growing I don't know.
yeah, I'm like, what's happening?
Losing muscle and building
muscle.
fat.
Yes. Yep. It's like
They
that's
did a
the thing we
movie.
could
It's
teach you
called
to do too.
Supersize Me. You can just watch that.
Yes. You watch that one down below. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so this week we are talking about building muscle and burning fat and kind of how you do that, the differences between the two, as far as what happens in your body when you're starting a fitness routine. Yeah, it should be interesting. How do you
Yeah.
feel about it?
Nervous. Nervous.
Nervous about talking about it?
Yeah,
I do
because there's
too, a
so
little
much
bit.
out there about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation about it because a lot of people who talk about it are talking about it from the perspective of I'm trying to sell you a shake or a tea or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so they're trying to tell you just drink this tea and you'll be able to burn fat right off your body.
Yeah. Oh,
I
wouldn't
don't
that be
know about
nice?
that tea. Yeah. Or take this pill. Take
Yeah.
this pill and you'll instantly lose 5 pounds. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know that there's like celebrity endorsements that are an issue like that. Yeah. And I'm like, it always kills me actually when I see those of like a celebrity. I just had a baby and I am 2 months
Yeah.
postpartum and look at how hot I look. And I'm like, yeah, but you have a personal chef living in your house. You have all these things are taken care of for you that you're not stressed about. I'm like, you have a nutritionist who is, or a dietitian who is telling you exactly what to eat. I'm like, you have a personal
Personal
trainer.
trainer
You
on
have
call.
on call, basically lives in your house. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course you look that good right afterwards. Not to mention, like, who knows what else is out there? Like, as a person who has had
Mm-hmm.
babies, I only know what is available to me in my my socioeconomic status. And
Yeah.
so I have no idea what celebrities have
Right.
access to. But I will tell you, it's not the same as me raising 3 children and 2 months postpartum. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, we could just be poor and not know about the magic pills that are way up
Right?
here.
Who knows? Who knows what's available? Mm.
Yeah.
So we're going to approach it from normal person. Yeah.
Yes. People living normal lives, not someone,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to say again that someone who doesn't have a job and has all the time in the world, it's easy for you because
No.
I currently am not working full time. And so I have more time to work out and do all of this stuff. And it's still not easy. It's still not something
No.
that you can just turn a switch on and, oh, I'm
Mhm.
building muscle or, oh, I've lost all of that body fat I didn't want. Like, it doesn't just happen like
Yeah.
that.
No, it sure doesn't. Cool. So,
Burning fat and building muscle take kind of two different pathways to be able to do it. So, if you want to burn fat off of your body, you're going to need to be in a calorie deficit. So,
mhm.
meaning you need to burn more calories than you're eating and taking in. And you also kind of have to be in a spot where your body is willing to use fat as your form of energy. Because
Mhm.
when we take in food and eat it, we're taking in fat, we're taking in protein, we're taking in carbs. And these are all different forms of energy that our body has available to it to be able to use. And they, when you burn them and you use them, they produce different amounts of energy as well. And some are
Mhm.
easier to use than others. So if your body had a choice, it's going to use the easy stuff first
Yeah.
before it gets to the hard ones. And unfortunately, the hard energy is the fat. it's
Yes.
it's kind of designed that way because it's amazing as insulation to keep our body warm and make sure that, we're not dying out in the wilderness back before we had all of these nice things like houses and amazing down jackets and things like that.
Yep.
And so your body has to be able to burn that fat as energy that it already has stored on it. In order to build muscle, though, you need to be taking in more calories than you are burning. So it's kind of
Specifically protein. Yeah.
specifically protein as your main source of energy, which is kind of the exact opposite of what we were just doing with fat burning.
Mhm. For sure. So the reason why we talk about eating more protein as energy, as our main energy source when we're building muscle, is that protein breaks down into amino acids. which is what feeds your muscles. So fat and carbohydrates are not really going to give a whole lot of energy to building muscles. It's going to be those amino acids that the proteins break down into. And so increasing your protein, that's a lot of times when you start working with a personal trainer or with a nutritionist, that's what they talk about is, or even bodybuilders, you talk about, it's so much of like protein, that's like, it's kind of overwhelming. And they talk about protein shakes and bars and whatever else in order for you to get that protein in. Lean proteins, talking about chicken. But the reason for that, there is a reason, even if they're not telling you the whole reason behind it, but it is that it's the building blocks for those muscles.
Yeah. I like to think of it as like Lego pieces where they kind of stick together and build up to build something nice like your muscle. And then you can break them down and use the individual amino acids to go build other things.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. Which is also why it's hard. So thinking about the way that fat is structured is it's like one squiggly with three squigglies. But when it's bonded like that, they don't want to come off of there and break down. They like hanging out like that. It's super comfortable for them. The molecule is well connected and it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but yeah, it's not as easy as Legos where they snap together and it's like,
then they just
let me take this apart and off they go. Yeah. It's more like, I don't even know if I can think of an example, but something like twisted together. It's much more challenging to break those apart. And like putting fat in our bodies is the easiest pathway. The body likes to hold on to fat. It's super easy for it to do it. And so it likes to do that rather than getting rid of it, unless it has to.
Yeah. Because again, it's easy to keep it there. It's hard to get rid of it.
Yes, exactly.
So when we think about burning fat, I immediately start to think about like cardio exercises, HIIT training to an extent, things like that are more kind of sustained efforts, ones where you're not doing a lot of resistance training, a lot of explosive movement, things like that. And then whenever I think about building muscle, I immediately think about like heavy bodybuilders lifting weights, pushing all of these like plates around, doing these explosive movements.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely something that when I'm doing, like as a trainer, when I'm working with a client and somebody is wanting to lose fat, oftentimes I have to fight against that preconceived notion that you have to be doing a ton of cardio in order to lose fat off of your body. When in actuality, if you build the muscles in your body to be bigger, they burn more energy. Just by simply by enlarging them, they burn more energy, which means that you're more likely to lose fat. And so resistance training, weight training, that kind of stuff is a great way to burn fat off of the body. The difficulty is that those two processes, like we just talked about, building muscle mass versus burning fat, are two very different processes. In order for you to build the muscle mass, you have to be a little bit in a calorie surplus or at least at maintenance level with increased proteins. And then in order to lose weight, you should be in a calorie deficit, which makes it harder for you to build muscle. And so finding the right balance, because you can do both at the same time, but it really comes down to making sure that your protein levels are at the right spot, which is really hard to do because honestly, eating a lot of protein, if you're not used to it, is something that's really incredibly challenging and not always the most pleasant of processes.
Yeah. And it's a lot of food. Like if you are really trying to build and bulk up on muscle, it's a lot of food.
Yeah. I would say it's actually really interesting because I've done a couple of different ways of, like we talked about, yo-yo dieting and that kind of stuff, which is not something that I'm super like, I've not really done a lot of yo-yo dieting, but I have adjusted the way that I eat based on what I'm training for and that kind of stuff. And so there's like when you're doing bodybuilding, a lot of times they talk about bulking versus shredding. And so you'll have a period of time, usually like 6 to 8, maybe 12 weeks, where you're bulking. And so you're eating a surplus of calories. You're eating a lot of protein in order for you to build that muscle, build. And then you'll have a period of like 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, where then you're shredding.
usually it's leading into an event, something like that, where you drop your calories way down in order for you to burn the fat off of your body. And that muscle that you've already built is then helping to burn that fat off faster, which is great. But honestly, for me, like the shredding part of it, where you're reducing your calories and then just maintaining your activity, that part is always much easier, like mentally as a process for me. And the way that I feel versus bulking, like
Really?
when you're not hungry, yeah, I'm like, when you're not hungry, when I'm not hungry and I don't want to eat anymore, but I'm like, I gotta hit my protein. Like that is the worst feeling for me. I hate that feeling of like, I gotta eat this because my body's gonna need it because I'm lifting heavy tomorrow or whatever. Like that's so hard for me. But like the reducing calories and then just maintaining, that's much, much easier for me.
I think I'm the opposite though. I am great with the bulking phase, not in the sense of
Mm,
like I'm easy to gain weight and all that, but like but
yeah,
like
but it's easier for you.
it is over the cutting your calories but still needing to maintain exercise and movement. Like I get to the point where I'm just like I'm hungry and I'm uncomfortable, like I don't want to do anything because I'm not
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
eat more than whatever. And
Hmm.
luckily, I haven't done a whole lot of shredding. I've only done
Yeah.
two, maybe three, like small cycles of them. So, like
Yeah.
1 to 2 weeks type thing where you go through your
Oh,
cut.
yeah.
But I hate those weeks. Like, I hated
Yeah.
it. I
Oh,
was like,
funny.
this is not for me right now. Like,
Yeah.
especially because like there was no reason, like no end goal of like I'm doing this because of XYZ event.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
doing it
Yeah.
because I was following this plan and trying to see like what my results would be from it. And
Yeah.
I all of it was just like this is not for me.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Well, and I'm like, a lot of times it's like physique related. Like that's what people bulk and
Yeah.
shred for. Cause I'm like, there's not really a reason to get like shredded. Just thinking about the way that we go about our lives naturally,
Mm-hmm.
like there's not really a reason for a person to walk around with a six-pack abs all the time.
No.
Like, especially as a female, I'm like, it's so hard on your body to get down to that level of body fat of like 5 to 10% for a woman. Like 10 to 12% is low for a woman. Like, but anything lower than that, and like there's all sorts of other side effects that
Unhealthy.
happen and that kind of stuff that's really unhealthy. But there's no reason for it. Like there's
Yeah.
no natural reason. You are as strong in your core section as
Mm-hmm.
you are with a six pack versus with a little extra fat on there.
Yeah.
And so really it's about finding that comfort level of like, this is what I want to look like and I'm comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
looking like. And yeah, I don't worry about it beyond that.
Yeah. And it's the same with the men too. Like in order for them,
Mm-hmm.
if they're actually competing in that sort of physique or bodybuilding area, they have to
Yeah,
be at like 3% or less body fat. I'm sure that the
it's
ones who win are
wild.
like 1% or less. And
Mm-hmm.
how are you able to maintain like life at that point? But also,
Yeah.
you're not going to see that person walking around in the street like that.
No. Mm-mm. Nope. Well, it makes me think of like what is it, Chris Hemsworth when he was training to
Oh
play
yeah.
Thor. Oh no, it was Chris Evans. That's who it was. Chris Evans was when he was training to be Captain America. He like worked out so hard. And then they had that helicopter scene in the first one where he goes like this. And he wanted so badly for him to have his shirt off so that everybody could see it. Because it
Yeah.
really was like this huge feat of like, I did all of this work that like was so hard leading up to this that I want to show it off now. And you really don't have in life
You're
opportunities to
no,
do
yeah.
that all the time. Like it's not really a thing. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate there's a couple of people that I follow on social media that have posted about like I have a six pack, like they show themselves
Yeah.
and then they talk about how miserable they feel. Like as especially as a woman, but they talk about like that they just feel like shit. Like they have no energy, they just want to sit on the couch, they have headaches, they're cranky, like they just aren't enjoying their life. Whereas, and especially like if they're dieting down to that point, like then you're not eating out with friends. Like you're just sitting at home eating very basic, very lean proteins and minimal carbs and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And that's hard. That's really, really hard.
But anyway,
Anyway, it's like that was a little off topic, but
it's a long
yeah.
tangent to say building muscle is difficult and hard and isn't
Yeah.
something that can just be done.
Yep. It takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. But I think that the key point that I want people to get out of that is not the difficulty of the work, but understanding what is realistic and what thinking about your personal lifestyle and why you're wanting to be fit, which we've talked about in previous episodes. We talked about finding your why behind fitness, but really thinking about like, I want to build muscle now in a certain way so that I can, like, I always want to be able to like move the furniture in my house if I want to move somewhere, or like just those daily activities where I want to be able to pull the trash out of the trash can and put it out and not have difficulty. I want to be able to squat down and pick up things off the floor, lift my kids up, that kind of stuff. That's my motivation behind building muscle on my body. And it's not externally motivated by the way that I look. Yes, I want to look good in photos and find comfort in that, but not to a point where I'm hating my life. Like that's not something that's interesting for me.
Yep. Yeah. I call that functional fitness. It's
yes.
making sure that you can still do everything in your day-to-day life without needing a lot of accommodations or modifications to it, just because you have the fitness and the strength to do it on your own.
Yeah. Love that.
So there are two kind of different types of exercises that you can use to achieve pretty much the same, but also different results of things. The first one is aerobic, and you're going to use aerobic exercise mostly for fat burning, because what aerobic exercise is it means that it's with oxygen. It's usually longer, sustained endurance type exercises. So, and my brain, I immediately think running, cycling, Pilates, some forms of yoga,
even just normal activity. This is aerobic activity is like walking, just being in your house, existing as a person. Your body is kind of already in that aerobic. Yeah. And it's ongoing. It's not, there's not really an end point to it. Like with other energy pathways, there's kind of a burnout point where you've used up all the available energy in that. Whereas aerobic, because it's oxidative, is the other name for it. Because that process can just continue on forever. As long as you're taking in oxygen, you're able to create ATP in order as an energy pathway. Yeah. So that's aerobic activity.
Yeah. And then we have anaerobic activity, which is without oxygen. And anaerobic activity, you think of like explosive power, so big jumps, a sprinter if he's going to go down like 100-meter dash, weightlifting. A lot of our weightlifting exercises, those are going to be anaerobic. A lot of your heart rate is probably going to spike and then come back down and rest, and then it's going to spike and then it's going to come back down and rest, because your body can only do it for so long until it needs to recover.
And there's two main energy pathways within anaerobic activity. So there's there's the phosphagen pathway, which is anaerobic. It's purely anaerobic, and that's 100% of your power comes from explosive movements. And you get the full energy to do that movement, and then that's it. There's no more energy after that to do that movement again. It's 100% of your max power, and it lasts about 10 seconds. And then there's your glycolytic pathway, your energy pathway, which is it starts out as anaerobic and then it moves into aerobic, where you start using that oxygen. And this one is about 70% of your max power is when this pathway is used, and it lasts about 2 minutes. So thinking of, like Brittany was saying, like 100-meter dash, something like that, where you're able to use that momentum about 70% of your max. So you're not full on sprinting for that distance, anything like that. You're just going real quick and then being done. And it peaks around 60 seconds. So that sort of activity.
Yeah. So that would not be a 100-meter dash, but
no. Well, yeah.
A little longer.
I was like a little longer. So 2 minutes would be like, I don't know what. I have no idea.
Yeah. So for normal people, 2 minutes, probably maybe 400 meters, so once around the track.
Okay.
That would be closer to what like us as normies would do.
Yeah, perfect. So what does this mean for you as far as building muscle and burning fat? It's a great question.
That is a great
What does it mean?
question. This is all
Right.
super technical, but how do you incorporate that into your actual daily routine? So I guess the first question you have to ask yourself is, which is more important to you
Mhm.
to start out? Is it that you would like to burn fat or build muscle? Because while we said that you can do both at the same time, the results you're going to get for both of them trying to accomplish at the same time are not going to be as good as if you were to prioritize one over the other and then try to
Mhm.
balance it out. And so I would always recommend focusing on which one might be more of a priority for you and then
Mhm.
going from there. So why don't we
Yeah.
start with if we want to prioritize building muscle first?
I like it. This is something that actually I address. I was just thinking about like my personal training clients. And oftentimes when people are starting a fitness routine, they want to prioritize fat burning. And when you're working with a personal trainer, we do the fitness side of it. And so we're mostly focused on muscle building. And I try to stay in my lane and I don't like you're going to have some fat loss that happens because you're doing more activity naturally. But if you really want to focus on fat loss, you should be working with a registered dietitian nutritionist, someone who has expertise in that field and can help you adjust the way that you're eating because they talk about like abs are made in the kitchen. Like that's how you're gonna get your fat off of your body in order for you to lose weight. Seeing a personal trainer is going to help with fat loss because like we talked about before, you are building muscle, which helps you they naturally use more energy, muscles do. And so that's going to help with fat loss. But yeah, but distinguishing between those two things is super important.
I think that the main reason, though, too, to work with that dietitian when you're trying to do fat loss is to make sure you're getting proper nutrition that's actually
Mm-hmm.
healthy for you. Because it's one thing to say you need to take in less calories than you're burning,
Mm-hmm.
but it's another thing to say you need to take in less calories than you're burning, and it needs to come from calories you can use and calories that are going to be beneficial to you and not just taking in 1,200 calories worth of donuts.
Yeah. All right. So, as a personal trainer, something that the most advice you're going to get from me about your nutrition is going to be increasing your protein and maintaining the rest. That's what I will say about nutrition as a personal trainer when I'm working with a client. And the reason that I make sure that I stay in my lane really close, carefully with that when I'm working with personal trainer clients is because of the horror stories that I have heard of personal trainers saying something like, you should be eating 1,200 calories and then putting people through 4 heavy duty workouts per week. And then somebody after less than a month is off. They're off their training plan and they hate the gym and they will never go back to it. And so as a personal trainer, I'm very careful with that portion.
Also, the dietitians and the nutritionists are going to look at a little bit more of your picture. Like they're going to look
Mm-hmm.
at what all is going on in your life. Maybe you are also trying to get pregnant or you have diabetes. Like you might have other things going on
Yeah,
that
underlying conditions.
exactly that you need to be sensitive about. And they might not work out well with just strictly cutting your calories down. You might need to like keep your calories high and then just
Mm-hmm.
cut the amount of carbs you're eating or the amount of fat that you take in. Like you might need to adjust your macros in the middle there
Mm-hmm.
instead of just cutting the calorie amount simply because of whatever condition you have. So if I were going to come to you as someone who
Mm-hmm.
wants to build muscle, what sort of workouts or training regimen would you suggest for me, or what would you do to help guide me in that process?
Yeah, so around building muscle, we would focus on hypertrophy, which is increasing your muscle size. And the way that you do that is over time, increasing the amount of weight that you're doing in a specific movement. So if you're brand new to exercise, we would start you out with zero weight on you at all. You would start out with literally just body weight movement, so that you're getting used to the functional portion of it. That's a huge part, is like we talked about, is functional movement. So making sure that your body is able to do the movement properly before we start adding weight onto you. And then once you have those movements down, we're moving through the process of the law of progression, which means that for me, it's super important that you don't get so sore that you can't function in your daily life, and slowly progressing the amount of weight that you're lifting, and then literally just making a plan. It's oftentimes, so when I do a training plan, oftentimes it'll be 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it is. And it'll literally be every week is the same movement on the specific day, maybe with slight variation, but overall it's the same type of movement. And we are just steadily increasing the amount of weight that you're putting on there so that you're increasing your muscle size.
And that's, well, one, starting out with no weight and just kind of learning the movements is super important for later on in the process when you do have heavy weights and things on there, because you want to make sure you have good form with whatever you're doing. If you don't have good form, and let's say you're going to go squat and you load up a barbell and you come down for your squat, you can seriously hurt yourself. If you have bad form, you can hurt your back, you can hurt your knees.
You can
a lot of bad things can happen.
Yeah. The other thing that makes that the understanding of the movement super important is, so we talked about a little bit earlier about explosive movement. And so when you are doing explosive movement, you want those patterns, that muscle memory, to already be built into your body. You have an understanding of it so that you're not thinking about it, so that when you're doing those explosive movements, going for 100% of your max power, that you are able to do them properly without hurting yourself.
Yeah. So like explosive movements, if you're someone who's kind of new to the gym, an explosive movement would be something like a box jump,
or thinking about like kicking or punching, where you're coming from a static place and then you're punching as hard as you can, thinking about an attacker coming at you, something like that. Those sorts of movements where it's really fast, a short distance. That's what we're thinking of. Yeah. Well, I think that we can talk a little bit about, so there's a difference in the way that you're building muscle. So the way that there's two different main ways to build muscle. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So this is just a very basic understanding of it. So you can do low weight and high reps. So that's your first one. So if you're doing only body weight, but you're trying to build muscle, instead of doing 5 or 8 reps of something, you're going to do 10 or 20 or 30, like depending on what the movement is. Or you can do really heavy weight and do much fewer reps. And that's, both of those are going to get you the same kind of result within the muscle. You're still going to be building muscle. It's a little bit different,
sort of,
but sort of. Yeah. I was like, but the general idea, you're going to get to the same place. And it's actually really interesting. So with women, a lot of times women will be like, I don't want to get bulky. And they're super worried about that. And that's not something, like, unless you're going for super massive weight and doing a ton of reps with it, you're not really going to get to that point. Like building muscle, it's a process. It takes a lot of focused energy in order to get there. But it's not something you should have to worry about.
Especially thinking back to those physique models and the bodybuilders, how difficult it is for them to get to that physique of that bulky look. And then thinking about the amount of work they put into it every single week, the amount of concentration they have on their nutrition plan, on their workouts, on their daily routine. And then thinking back to my own life, I am nowhere near putting in the same amount of effort that they are putting in. So
no,
I should not expect the same type of results that they are getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Woohoo! I loved your face when I said it's kind of going to get you. Your face was like, not quite. I'm like, it's kind of. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, there's a point where you want to simplify it down for people, but it also, like, when you simplify it down so far, like, it gets into that gray area of it's the same, but it's not.
It's the same, but it's not. Yeah, for sure.
Because I always think back to when I was running track at college, and we do our weightlifting programs that were designed by the same strength coach for whether you are an explosive sprinter or a long distance runner or whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they would email all the training plans out over the summer. So you would
Oh,
see
okay.
what like other people were doing during their like
Mm-hmm.
summer lifting programs. And
Yeah.
so you could go click on them. And I found one of those emails a few years ago and I clicked on, I was never a long distance runner, so I never opened their tabs. But I clicked on their tab and
Oh,
we had very different routines. Like
yeah, for
they
sure.
were very close to what you were talking about of like long
Long. Mm-hmm.
long reps, like a lot of eccentric holds. They
Yes.
did light weights, they did 15 to 20 reps of each thing,
Mm-hmm.
like, and then I
Yeah.
would look at the tabs that I was doing and it's like 5 reps and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Super heavy. Yeah.
And some of
I
them
love
were the
that.
exact same exercise, like it'd be like
Mm-hmm.
a deadlift where my reps, because I was training to be a more of an explosive athlete, it'd be 6 reps heavy weight and their reps
Yeah.
would be 15 reps low weight.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
So
it.
like,
Yeah. And
and
like the time.
we're both trying to build muscle, but we're building it in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about, so like the other part of the low weight and the high reps is that you're
Mm-hmm.
also, like you're talking about, to your point, right? They're probably doing something explosive with it, so something super fast, or they're doing it so slow, like painfully slow. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Super fun to
exactly.
watch.
Mm-hmm. And I think right now, the mainstream fitness trends that I see online are geared
Mm-hmm.
more towards those high rep, low weights,
Mm-hmm.
slow, painful things. We're not doing a lot of um, the like short reps, explosive power that are really going
Yeah.
to get you into that body builder physique.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bodybuilders, the ones who are like big and bulky.
My favorite is that the like bodybuilders, people who are really like the strongest man, who
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember what, it's wild. But if you look at him, like he's got like a little pudgy belly, and it makes me
Yeah,
so happy because you can tell that he is never shredded before. Like he has never
no
cut his
need.
calories. Because that's not what he's going for. He's going
Yeah.
for the heaviest possible thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
he needs all that energy. And I just
Yeah.
love it. I love it. It makes me kind of fit, kind of fat. That's a thing that people talk
Big
about.
kind
And
of fat. I love it.
I'm like, I love it. I kind of happily live in that category, and I'll stay
I
there.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like thinking about Olympic athletes, and they come in all
Mm-hmm.
shapes and sizes depending on the event that you're doing because you prioritize the muscles and the stamina and everything that you need for your event. So if you
Mm-hmm.
are an equestrian and you do not need to be explosive power, but you need a lot of core strength, and you do need
Mm-hmm.
like you need balance and like muscle core strength and all of those things to be able to maintain position on your horse, etc. But you do not want to
Mm-hmm.
be extremely heavy for your horse
Yeah.
versus like an Olympic shot putter who is trying to move a weight through the air. You definitely want
Yeah.
more mass on you.
Yeah. I think we've done a lot of talking about like athletes and what they need.
Yeah.
And so thinking about yourself as a normal person, thinking of yourself as an athlete, but understanding what your sport is in life is super important for you to create a training plan. So thinking about, what am I trying to accomplish in my life? And then taking that and putting that as your sport. Like that's what you do every day, what you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and then creating a training plan around that so that you're functional.
A great way of thinking about it. Like we're all training for something, whether it is
Mm-hmm.
picking your kids up off of the ground because you have a baby or a toddler that you
Mm-hmm.
need to carry around, whether it is unloading the groceries from your car and bringing them up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
There's all different
Yep.
reasons of why we need to do it and different things to train for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Burning fat.
Woohoo!
Let's back it on up then and talk a little bit about burning fat.
Fun.
Bye. Yeah. we alluded to already that in order to burn fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit in order to allow your body the ability to strip the insulation off of it and use it as fuel. You also need to be in a state where your body is willing to want to do that. And what I mean by that is your body is not going to strip the fat off of you if you are doing squats. Like if you are at the gym squatting on the squat rack with heavy weights, your body is not going to actively go to the fat cells on your body and say, oh, I need this, I'm going to use it. But you might be able to do that if you go for a kind of slower sustained run or cycling effort where you are not needing to use really explosive power. Your heart rate is lower. It's in what a lot of people will call zone 2, which is like 70 or so % of your max heart rate. So it's what I like to refer to it as the conversation pace. It's where if you were to go for a little jog or a run, and you can still talk to your running buddy next to you and maintain that conversation without feeling like you are super out of breath.
That goes back to the energy pathways that we were talking about. So the phosphagen, the glycolytic, and then the oxidative, those 3 different pathways. So you're going to be in the glycolytic to oxidative kind of range.
So we want to make sure that we're doing exercises that are going to support us in wanting to burn fat in the moment. But then after we finish exercising, so you may have heard of a concept where you might burn more energy after you finish working out. And that might be where you will burn some of that fat. So you might have gone to the gym and done your squat workout and your explosive exercise workout for building your muscle. Now you're going to go home, you're going to drink your protein shake, eat your dinner, and your body is going to need to repair itself and the muscles that it tore up because you are beastly at the gym. But it's going to need to use energy to be able to do that. So it might need to then go to some of your fat stores and say, I need this. I'm going to use this in other places.
Yeah. But the only way that it can get there is when you're in a calorie deficit. So what we mean, I don't think that we've actually talked about what that means to be in a calorie deficit. So when we talk about energy consumption and taking in calories, so your basal metabolic rate is what you would have to use for energy or need for energy consumption if you sat on the couch and did nothing, just breathed, existed as a human for an entire
Hosted a
day.
podcast.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Right. So if you just sat for the entire day, did minimal thinking, just watch TV, basic, super, didn't do anything. That's your basal metabolic rate. And then any energy that you use above and beyond that, right? So if you get up and you go out to your car, or you go check the mail, if you make food, if you go to work, if you interact with people, if you go to the gym, any of that extra stuff is going to need more energy beyond that. So then there comes a point where you are you've reached your entire activity level for the day. And then your energy consumption may continue to increase. And so if you're overeating, over consuming energy, that's when we start to put fat on the body, because the body is like, I don't need this, but maybe something's coming that I need this for. And so it starts to hold on to that. And that's what becomes our fat stores. So in order for us to get out of that storing fat portion, we have to understand where our energy level, energy expenditure is for the day, and then decrease our energy consumption, so that then we're reaching into those fat stores and pulling those out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. We did
Spot
it.
on.
Spot on. That's what it is.
Exactly. This is a very complicated concept, honestly. Like I have taken classes in college on like this concept, and putting it into a 1-hour podcast is not easy.
Yeah. Very challenging. So what we're going to do to help with that is there's going to be some links down below, just articles and more information available to you about building muscle versus fat loss. There's also a social media, a person that I follow on TikTok named Ben Carpenter, just put out a book called Everything Fat Loss by Ben Carpenter. It's got a ton of great information, so check it out. I'll link it down below.
What?
Cool. Okay,
Cool.
carrying on.
All right. So now we have a pretty basic understanding now about how to burn fat, how to build muscle on our body, but how do we know if we're actually doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple
one.
Exactly. we can think that we're doing it, but we are not really going to know unless we kind of measure and monitor any sort of progress that we have on our body. So there's a couple ways to do that. The very basic one could be just how your clothes fit on your body. Generally, if we are losing fat off of our body, we are probably also losing inches around our waistline, around our thighs, in these areas that tend to hold a little bit more body fat on them. And so your clothes might start to fit a little bit looser on you. Alternatively, if you are building up muscle in some of these areas, like in your glutes, because that's a huge one for people to want to target and build up rounder glutes, you might see that the seat of your pants might be a little snugger.
Yeah. I love it. I am a proponent of tape measure, of the measuring. So you use a fabric tape and you wrap it around the different parts of your body. Usually you do biceps and triceps. So around your arms, and then you do around your waistline, around your hips, and then typically something around your thigh, depending on which area you're kind of hoping to see some fat loss in. This one is key for me. So when I'm working with clients, depending on their level of comfort with it, I think that it's a great way for you to monitor your progress because you literally can see the difference in the size of your body. So even if your shirts, like maybe you're a person that has extra fat on your body and you tend to wear clothes that are looser fitting so that you're more confident in public, that kind of stuff. So it might be a little bit harder to tell when your clothes are fitting a little bit more loosely or a little bit more tightly. So using that measuring tape to literally track. I don't encourage it for you to use it all the time, but I would say like once, maybe every 2 weeks or once a month, something like that, to track your progress a little bit. It's a great way to keep track of that.
Yeah.
It's super encouraging too. It's something that's actually, you can do it like before a workout and then after a workout, because they talk about you being like swole afterwards. And it's literally like in your body, like you can feel that happen. It's a good feeling. And it's cool to be able to see it too. One thing I will say about tracking progress is that I do not encourage people to use the scale. There's two real things. So a scale, I don't encourage, and I don't encourage BMI. Neither of those things are going to give you a really accurate, like a scale is measuring your relationship to gravity on the planet. And like fat weighs weighs less than muscle based on density, that kind of stuff. And like, it's too much of a variable of factors that can affect it. And so I don't encourage it. And then BMI, there is so much research disproving the validity of the BMI. And so I don't encourage people to use that either.
Kind of the last good way of tracking some of this progress might be like an actual body composition scan. So I've had this done before in the past. It's so cool. So it's called a DECA scan, DECA. You can get them at different sports medicine type places will offer them. I did it because the company was working with a CrossFit gym and they were doing it with cool. As part of their challenge that they were doing, but they opened it up to the public as well for people who weren't involved in it. So I got in there. So what it is you go in and you do weigh yourself. They tell you to wear really light clothing, no metal, and you go in and you get weighed, and then you lay down. This magnetic thing goes over you and scans you from head to toe, but it will tell you at the end, like, and show you these are your areas of fat and these are your areas of, like, this is what it looks like when you get it back.
That's so cool.
The red part is my body fat. The white is obviously
your
my
fat stuff.
bones, and then the green part is like my lean tissue. So like you can see on it where at the time I had stored most of my body fat, which makes sense because I'm a
Interesting.
woman and a woman tends to store it in their extremities a lot more than in their core.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
That's so
and
cool.
it's one of the most accurate ways to actually see what you've got going on.
Interesting. One thing I do want to address just briefly is that when you're doing like a weightlifting regimen, something like that, when you're doing a program, you cannot target specific areas of your body with exercise in order to burn the fat off of that area. So people talk about doing core exercises until they're freaking blue in the face. And that's not going to help you burn any fat off of your body. Your body is going to burn fat off of your body by being in a calorie deficit. That's, I mean, and there's a lot of factors to that. So again, this is for educational purposes, but that's the long and the short of it is that you can't do muscle exercises in your bicep in order, or in your tricep in order to get rid of this flab that's there. That's not how it works.
And especially, like I just said, women tend to store more of their body fat in their extremities. So if you're looking to burn off muscle, or not muscle, body fat in a specific spot, like maybe in your thighs, you're not going to be guaranteed that you're going to get that fat from your thighs. You might get it all out of your midsection and leave the stuff in your thighs.
Yep. I remember when I was like doing a lot of weightlifting and I still had fat happening in like the outsides of my legs and then on my tummy, but I had no boobs. Like it was gone.
Boobs, yes.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, okay, cool. That's where my fat was stored, I guess. That's where my body decided it wanted to get rid of first. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. But it's so true because it's one of the first things that goes when women start to lose weight and lose body fat is our boobs go away.
Yep. Okay, bye.
Okay,
Off they go.
Yeah. So just know that, it might not be coming from where you want it to come from.
But stick with it. Eventually it will come off of all those areas.
It will. So you might need a push-up bra though.
Yep, for real.
For real. Common obstacles. We talked about one of we cannot spot train something off of our body. Another common obstacle might be though that we're putting in a lot of work at the gym and we're not seeing any results.
Yep.
There could be a lot of factors going on there. Like we could not be properly eating nutrition. We could be
stressed.
Yep. We could be super stressed out at work or at home or just in general. The workouts could be stressing us out. Who knows? We might not be sleeping. Like maybe we're not giving ourselves proper rest and recovery after our workouts. And we're trying to survive on 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night. Or another one, which I very recently have dealt with, is your hormones might be out of whack. Found out that my thyroid level was all sorts of wrong. But my doctor gave me some thyroid medication to start taking. And within a month of starting up this medication, I am someone who does weigh themselves every day. I don't use it as like, oh, I have to be 50 pounds lighter or whatever, but I do use that to see trends over time. And within 1 month of me starting this medication, I had already lost 5 pounds of weight in my trend. I don't know if it came from water weight only or some body fat or this or that because I wasn't paying attention to that, but I am now consistently down a fairly good portion of weight from almost 3 months ago now when I started taking this medication.
Yeah.
So it could be something internally in our bodies that's not working and functioning properly that could be keeping us from hitting our goals.
Yeah, for sure. I talk about like underlying conditions as well with my clients that I work with, because if your body is trying to fight something off, so if you have a cold, if you're sick in any way, if you're immunocompromised, that kind of stuff, that can all impact your body's ability to even burn fat off of it. Because honestly, it's going to put as much energy as it can into taking care of those conditions and just keeping you alive, let alone trying to burn fat off of your body. And so that's something that's, if you have underlying conditions, especially if you're not aware of them, it's something that I try to encourage people to go see a physician or seek external help so that they can have an understanding of what's happening in their body, that may be impacting their ability to build muscle or to lose fat.
Yeah. And now might be a good time to bring up too that if this is a new routine for you, that maybe you are wanting to go on a journey here to do this, you might want to start with going to the doctor and getting your physical and making sure that you don't have any sort of underlying condition, or B, hormone imbalances or anything that might self-sabotage you at some point, so that you can avoid the stress of saying, well, I've put in the time and the effort at the gym and in the kitchen and nothing is happening. But also making sure just that you're safe and you're healthy about it, because who knows if adding in extra exercise time or taking calories away from your diet might stress your body out and put you in danger.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's also super important at the outset is that you're setting realistic expectations of what your body can do. Because like we've talked about with social media and online and people talking about selling you a tea or whatever supplement or whatever that's supposed to help you lose all this weight. If you're losing weight too quickly off of your body, if you're losing fat too quickly off of your body, it's not going to be sustainable. And so having an expectation that is realistic to your body specifically is super helpful, and will help you like long term with the understanding if my expectation is that I'm losing a quarter pound or a half a pound of weight a week, if that's what your expectation is, then when you're only seeing that amount of weight coming off of your body over time, it's much more like easy to digest than if you're setting the expectation that you're losing 2, 3, 5, 10 pounds of weight per week. And then you're not seeing any, or you're only seeing a small amount of weight come off your body. That's much more mentally challenging for people to process. And the understanding that like you took a long time in order for you, specifically thinking if you're trying to lose fat off of your body, you didn't put all that fat on your body overnight. It's something that you did incrementally over time, but because it was an enjoyable process, you probably didn't notice it happening, or maybe you did, but you didn't know how to correct it. And so now thinking about that process in reverse, we're probably going to take the same amount or more time in order to lose that fat off of your body than as it took for you to put it on.
Yeah.
So we just shared a lot of information about building muscle versus burning fat on the body, and that can be super overwhelming. So if you are somebody that's interested in more information, I do have an 8-week plan that I'm putting out for free. Each week, I'm going to be providing 4 days of exercise per week. It's something you can follow along with on my website or on our Facebook page at Race to Wellness. So check that out. We'll put the links down below for you. I would love to know what you're focusing on as far as burning fat versus building muscle in your body. I would love to know more. So please feel free to share.
Yeah. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Bye. I love it.
Thank you for joining us today at Race to Wellness. We hope it was both fun and informative for you. Make sure to join us for our next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content.
Also, we'd love to keep the conversation going, so feel free to ask us any questions or leave us a comment down below. You can also send us an email at racetowellness2023@gmail.com and click on the links in the description to follow us on our social media platforms.